There are several reasons that CBS ended Young Sheldon after Season 7 despite its continued popularity. Sheldon said goodbye with a 2-episode season finale that aired on May 16, 2024. The second episode, Memoir, cut back and forth between Sheldon in the timeline of Young Sheldon and the narrator Sheldon in the future, effectively ending any possibility of a revival for another season. This may come as a shock, considering that Young Sheldon remains a massive ratings hit on CBS, even becoming its #1 comedy for the 2022 to 2023 season, but its potential ending has long been being discussed. 1. How the Young Sheldon finale was received. Almost 9 million viewers tuned in. The Young Sheldon finale perfectly encapsulated the show and helped wrap up some plot holes fans noticed. The finale saw the George Cooper funeral and his family starting to move on from this great loss. It also showed Sheldon leaving home for Caltech, ending his story and this series in general. It also had a flash forward that explained that an adult Sheldon Cooper was writing his memoir. The plot holes were not really holes at all. They were what Sheldon described to Amy as his memories. He wasn't going to bury his dad in his memoir. The Young Sheldon finale proved what many of the cast members have said since CBS announced it was canceling the popular sitcom series. Almost 9 million people tuned in to watch the finale, with the funeral and Sheldon Cooper's journey to his real home at Caltech. In the Screen Rant review of the series, the best part of the series is the Coopers. The way George's death and the subsequent funeral is handled is a masterclass in balancing drama and humor. The series ended in the best way it could, considering the limitations. Young Sheldon finished with a dark period for the Coopers. Young Sheldon finished with George's death. CBS spent years dancing around Sheldon's story about catching his dad in bed with another woman, and understandably so. Despite how he was painted in The Big Bang Theory, George is actually a decent dad in the prequel, and staying true to canon will drastically change the usually lighthearted show. While it can get away with ignoring the affair, Young Sheldon couldn't escape George's death, which took place when Sheldon was 14. 3. Young Sheldon is available on streaming services. Young Sheldon is also available on Netflix outside the US. Aside from being part of CBS primetime programming, not to mention being in syndication, Young Sheldon is also accessible through streaming services. It is currently available to watch on demand on Warner Media's Max service, Max like its parent series. Beyond that, however, it is also available on Netflix outside of the US. In 2021, the streaming giant has included the family comedy in its catalog for Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom. 4. Another Big Bang Theory spin-off is already in development. It guarantees that the Big Bang Theory franchise will thrive moving forward. Young Sheldon has kept the Big Bang Theory universe alive since the nerd-centric sitcom ended its run in 2019. Despite gradually breaking away from its parent show, Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady's franchise remains relevant years after its mothership show wrapped up thanks to the success of the prequel. Knowing full well how popular the universe is, there are plans to further expand it via another spin-off. The series is titled Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, and that title says a lot. 5. Young Sheldon is already in syndication. Young Sheldon's 100th episode was A Solo Peanut, A Social Butterfly, and the Truth. Back in 2022, Young Sheldon released its 100th episode, which helped in securing higher rates for syndication. At this point, the show was already in constant reruns, with the series entering syndication in local markets, covering roughly 90% of the United States back in September 2021. Subsequently, it entered off-network syndication on TBS. Considering this, Warner Bros. Television can continue shopping the show with a lucrative deal now that it is already well past 100 episodes. 6. Young Sheldon's young actors are growing out of their roles. Sheldon and Missy are just about to turn 14. CBS kicked off Young Sheldon with Sheldon and Missy both 9 years old. This matched with Ian Armitage and Reagan Reverd's real-life age at that time. However, knowing full well that the show can only run until Sheldon is 14 years old, which is when he begins his postgraduate studies in California, the network has slowed down the character's aging process. After 7 years, Sheldon and Missy are just about to turn 14 in Young Sheldon Season 7, when both Armitage and Reverd have already turned 15 in 2024. The age difference has become more noticeable in Season 6 and was even a point of criticism. This will also be resolved with the spin-off about Georgie and Mandy, as they are both old enough that their ages don't matter as much, and they won't go through as many visible changes as they age. This might mean less screen time for Reagan. However, characters like Meemaw could always still return as well. 7. Young Sheldon reaches the end of its last 3-year renewal. Young Sheldon scored a 3-year renewal in 2021. When it debuted, Young Sheldon was a hit right out of the gate. CBS was understandably thrilled about this, awarding the show multi-year renewals. In 2021, the network gave the prequel a rare 3-year order, guaranteeing its run until the 2023 to 2024 TV season. Moving beyond that time frame means that everyone involved would have to get back to the negotiating table for brand new contracts. It seemed that CBS didn't want to deal with what potentially could be a rigorous process. And the number 8 is, Young Sheldon has outgrown its original story. It has increased its focus on the rest of the Coopers. The idea for Young Sheldon came from CBS' attempt to further capitalize on the popularity of The Big Bang Theory, and there was no better way to do that than by awarding its most recognizable character his own show. Sheldon's penchant for sharing anecdotes about his childhood in The Big Bang Theory became the launching pad for the narrative, resulting in a prequel that is set in Texas. In the last couple of years, however, Young Sheldon has clearly outgrown its premise. Instead of Sheldon being the focal point of the series, it has diversified its storytelling and increased its focus on the rest of the Coopers. The end of Sheldon's story, though, does not mean the end of the Cooper family's story. While there were complaints about the network canceling Young Sheldon from the cast, the complaints were short-sighted because things do not end with the end of Young Sheldon.